Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to this episode of G-Bear's Homesteading the Desert. It is November 8th, 2018. That's right, I didn't post yesterday because I'm saving bandwidth. Of course, we only have a little while left to go before all my bandwidth is replaced for another month, and we can go back to normal. But we're here in the garden house. I want to show you, I cleaned up all my tomato plants, and I put some stakes in. I'll tie them up a little bit later. But we've been having a wind event here for 2 days. Well, it started at noon yesterday, and it blew 29 miles an hour all through the night. I mean, I had to get up this morning and take the ATV and run around and pick up a bunch of stuff. I got it all gathered up, and I can see there's already a bunch of junk in the bushes again, so I'll be making another run around tomorrow. Anyway, I did get my tomatoes all cleaned off, pruned, and I got stakes. I got some of them tied here, and you can see I've got a little tomato here set on this one. I got tomatoes set on a couple of these already. I've got some new flowers on my jalapeno plant here. So one thing I did add was drywall dust. I added drywall dust to the soil and then watered it in, and apparently the calcium, the plants do like it. So that's where we are. And I will be getting to these cloud potatoes as soon as the wind dies down. We'll get those harvested and see what's in that bucket and get the new style bucket put together. As you can see, everything is all cleaned up here. Everything's doing well. This big old healthy tomato plant is got flowers on it and a couple of set tomatoes already. This one tangerine tree survived. I've got cilantro growing down there, watercress, and so forth and so on. And I've got parsley down in here, growing real well. And there's my sweet potatoes. And I got a nice flower on my sweet potato vine. Isn't that pretty? I know that Susie's going to love that. Look, I set up my self-watering gutter garden, or most of it anyway. You can see how the soil is brought up to the top of the pile here, and that goes around the bases of these buckets. Those buckets have a grow basket down inside that are going into a 3-inch sewer line run that is basically perfectly leveled inside of this thing. And this is how it's fed. It's from this water barrel, comes out through that hose, and it goes down inside here, and there's a float valve down inside there. Now, before I actually plant anything in these planters, I have to soak these down. And these have weed block cloth around the grow basket that's in the bottoms of them. And that's what's sticking down into the water. And that comes up all the way to about this point on these buckets. And then I got it folded over in the corners, as you can see right here. And that actually works as a conduit for wicking the water up into the soil. But the soil has to be wet before it'll do that. If the soil is too dry, you're not going to get a wicking effect. So what I do is I get it all set up like this, and I've already watered these twice, but I'll come in with my watering can every day now, and I'll water these until water sits on top and then let it soak down. And then when I pull that cover and I see water actually in the tube down below, I know that these things are completely saturated, and then it's time to turn the water on. And then that water will keep these things watered on a regular basis by itself. As the plant needs water, it's going to suck it up and keep on going. And then all I have to do is keep an eye on my barrel. When my barrel gets low, I transfer some water into it and keep on going. All right. I remember these gopher wire baskets I bought a while back, and then found out that they weren't going to work for me for gopher wire baskets, and I had to get my trees inside of this house. What I came up with an idea on these is I'm going to line these things with burlap or some other material and then hang them on the sides of the cage here. I'll probably put a 2x4 across like this one down lower, and I'll hang these and I'll put plants in them. Why not, right? A couple of hanging plants going around here. All right. Another thing I keep handy in here is one of these empty buckets, and whenever I'm pruning and pulling leaves off of stuff, I throw it all in there, and that ends up in the compost pile. Now look at this. I've got flowers and buds on my cucumber plants. So I'm glad I left that in. There's a couple up there. There's a flower up there already that looks like it's going to set a fruit. So there we go. I also have some new growth on my grapevine, which shouldn't be doing it this time of the year. Boy, it's windy out here. All right, so let's move out of here. I got a few things I want to cover today. You remember my water tank up there, and I said it was a little leak, and I thought it was the rubber seal on the filter, or the sediment filter. Well, I went over there and I decided I better take that out and bring it with me just in case. And I noticed it wasn't the filter gasket leaking. It was actually a glued-on 1.5 inch male adapter glued onto the filter that's been there for who knows how many years. It came with a jacuzzi I bought from somebody. Or actually, they gave it to me. I didn't buy it. But whoever glued that fitting on didn't prime it or anything like that, and they must have used old cement, because the only thing holding it on was dried cement. It never melted the plastics together. So that's where it was leaking. So I ended up being able to take that off. I cleaned out all of their old stuff, gave it a little bit of a scuff sand with some sandpaper, and I used some good glue and good primer on it, and I got it back together again, and it's all wrapped and just fine. And that's good, because we're supposed to go down below freezing within the next day or two. All right, here's another little thing I did with some scrap I had laying around. And I made that strap out of a leftover piece of the metal studs I cut when I was doing the room addition. And this is a birdhouse. So I got a little post on there. This is just to keep it spaced for right now. But I haven't decided. I think I'm going to I've got a long, like a 12, 15-foot piece of that metal pipe. I'll drill a hole in with my auger, set that down in the ground with this thing at the top of it, and I'll probably face it southeast, because we very seldom get winds out of the southeast. Right now they're coming out of the east, northeast, and they normally come out of the southwest. But anyway, this is where I was doing all my work yesterday. I mixed up some regular desert soil with some good compost and some steer manure, and I got that all put together. Now these were all set up so I could show you how it works. This is the gutter garden parts. Okay, this is a 3-inch drainage tee, and what I did was I cut off the tops like this on my chop saw, my 10-inch chop saw. And this would have been the end cap at the end of the whole run. So you can have these going all the way around. And then when you set that grow basket on top of this with the bucket, the grow basket goes all the way to the bottom of this using a 3-inch grow basket. And I had some of those out here. Let's see. Yeah, there's one down in here. All right. There's a 3-inch grow basket, and you can get these at any hydroponic supply place. They make them in 3-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, all different sizes. These work great for this type of a gutter garden, because you're only using it to bring water up. You don't need anything that big. And yet you use a hole saw like this in order to drill the holes in the bottoms of the bucket. I think this is the bucket with the hole in it. Yes. All right. So there's the hole I drilled. And if I take this bucket, the basket, and drop it in there, you see how it fits pretty nicely down inside the bucket like that. Well, what I do is I set 2 of those other buckets upside down so I had something to rest this on, so that the hole was in between them. And then I would take a piece of this cloth, and this is a scrap piece. It's all sun-dried and falls apart. But anyway, I would put it over the top, centered of the bucket like that, then put my basket in there, and then just push down with my hand until my hand went through the hole, and I'd push it down into place. Then I'd move this against the sides of the bucket and fill it up with soil. And I want to make sure you get soil down inside the basket too. And before I fill too much, I always throw an old rusty can down in the bottom, and that'll feed iron to the plants while the can rusts and rots in the soil down in there. It'll feed iron to my plant, so, and right at the root source. So that's a good thing. Now, if you don't have grow baskets and you want to make do with something else, and you have some of these old flower pots, you can use these. But I would say take a metal poker or a screwdriver and heat it up, and then put some more holes in the side of this, because you want the water to really get in there, not just through those bottom ones. And then again, you wrap it in the cloth and press it down to the hole. You would have to drill a 4-inch hole for that one, because that's a little bit bigger. And you'd also probably have to use a 4-inch sewer pipe like this one instead of the 3-inch like I used in there, because you need that extra depth for it to fit down inside. All right, we're done with that part. Let's move on up here. So yesterday morning when I got up, it was clear and as calm as can be here. I think there was maybe a 1 mile an hour wind all the way up until noon time. So the first thing I did when I got up was, when I came out here a couple of days ago, I found a couple of nuts, 3/8 nuts laying on the ground here, and I'm going, where did those fall off of? So I just happened to look up, and I noticed up there where the rod goes, I got a bolt that goes through the holes, the top pulley goes through the pole, and I had 2 nuts on the back side of it locked down so that it would keep that in place. Well, they came loose and they fell down here. So I was up there on top of a ladder off the roof here. Of course, I had a step ladder on the roof, and I went up the step ladder and I could reach it perfectly, and I put them back on and locked them down with a pair of channel locks. So that was one of the repairs I did after I finished repairing the water tank. And over here you can see some of the seeds that I already started. My early broccoli, my ruffled kale, my Spanish onion, and my Italian oregano. So those will all end up in that self-watering garden once things get rolling. I'll quickly get inside here because I'm running up here at 12.5 minutes already. And I want to show you my seed starting technique. And this is a rapid way of getting seeds started. So what I do is I get 4, this one's already done, I did this one, and don't write with ink on the inside of the paper, it just smears when you get it wet. So I have 4 different items that are going to go into this, and what I use, I made this up years ago and I keep these around, is this is one of those flexible plastic cutting boards, and you can see this one's been around a while, it's got a bunch of cuts on it. Well, these 2 pieces were together. It's a pretty large cutting board. So I cut them in half and round the corners for a specific reason, because I want to put them inside of this plastic bag and I don't want the corners hooking up on anything. Okay, then you're going to take 2 pieces of paper towel. And the paper towel I cut down to be the right size, because the plastic is 9 by 9 and the gallon bucket's a 10 by 10. So that fits right inside perfectly, as you can see. Now, what I do is I take my seeds and then I use a pair of tweezers like this, and I spend a little extra time and I sort my seeds out and put them in rows across like this. And I always plant a few more than I actually need, because if I don't need that plant, I just throw it into the chickens and they'll eat it. So it's not a waste. And you get plenty of seeds in a package, and I got plenty of packages of seeds, as you can see down here. All right, so once you get them all laid out, then you're going to take the other piece of your paper towel, and what I do to keep the seeds from getting jostled around is I use a sprayer, and this is a specific sprayer just for my plants. And the water is, I got the water adjusted, the pH in the water adjusted to just around 6.3, 6.5. 5.5 to 6.5 are what plants love the most. You can use fresh, clean rainwater. That's usually got a perfect pH for doing stuff like this. If not, go to your local garden shop and get yourself a pH adjustment kit and a pH test kit. So you can get the the different chemicals you need to raise and lower it. You could also use stuff like wood ash or baking soda to raise or lower your pH of your water. So you want the pH to be between 5.5 and 6.5, best for plants and starting. And even if you're using rock wool, you put the rock wool in a perfect pH water inside of a plastic bag and let it sit for 24 to 48 hours before putting your seeds in. And you'll be amazed at how fast things have sprout. I've sprouted lettuce before in that rock wool in overnight. I put it in at like 6 p.m. at night, got up in the morning at about 7 a.m. I was having coffee and I looked at it and I already had a little sprout coming out of the seed. So adjusting your pH and doing this type of a setup with your seeds is a rapid way of starting seeds. Now, these are all set up: Swiss chard, spinach, lettuce, and green onion. And I marked it 11/8 as the time it went in. And you can see the seeds right through the cloth. And you'll see when they sprout. Don't zip lock the bag after you get the thing wet. You spray it with your water. I spray the first one with the seeds on it to get it a little bit damp, and then I very carefully center this one over the top of it and spray it again and then slide it in. And that plastic makes it easy to slide in. If you don't have one of those cutting boards, you don't want to spend any money, this is the separator from a case of beer cans or soda cans. When you buy the big cubes, they have this separator in between the upper stack and the lower stack of cans. And you can cut this down to size and use this. You won't get repeated use out of that because it's cardboard. It's going to fall apart on you. The plastic ones last a lifetime. If you ever get a hold of one of those plastic cutting boards, grab it. And it doesn't have to be white. It could be any color you want. And just make yourself one of these that'll stay around for a lifetime. All right. In this one, what I'm going to do is, this is a smaller bag. This is the quart bag. And this is a peach pit from a freestone peach I ate. And I've already split it open. You let them dry, and then you can split them open, and then you're going to get the seed out of the center. Now, this is a white peach. And inside of here, these two are white, and this is a white. And these three are large yellow peaches. So I will set those up the same way I did that. Get them damp, and it'll stay damp all the time, just leaving that bag unzipped. You're going to keep it inside on a kitchen counter or something like that in your garage where you have ambient light, but not direct sunlight. You don't want direct sunlight on these things, okay? And the sun is starting to come through the window, and it's going to hit right over in this corner here pretty soon, but it won't get on that. And then check them every now and then. You'll notice that you probably never have to add water to them unless you have super, super dry conditions. The water that's in there and on there right now will actually keep going until those things are ready to transplant into soil pods or into little flower pots with some soil in them. So that's all you have to worry about. I think I've added water to one maybe once or twice in my whole life. But other than that, this is a great way of starting seeds. So I wanted to get that over to you. And I guess we're going to call this a day now. We've covered just about everything for the last 2 days that I've done. And I'm hunkering down now because the winds are still blowing, as you can see, 17 mile an hour with 23 mile an hour gusts. So the 64 degrees, 7% humidity. It's not really that cold because the humidity is low, but it's got a little chill and a nip to the air, so I'm hunkering inside for the rest of the day. I just wanted to get all of this stuff out to you because I didn't post yesterday. So don't forget, if you like my videos, give me a thumbs up down there. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already, thank you, and look forward to the next one. G Bear signing off.